It's like what Kratos said that one time from the hit series God of War: always keep your expectations low and you will never be disappointed. I've always lived by words like these. It's how I've come to enjoy many things in life, such as trashy isekais and aliens colonial marines. However, I think I got too comfortable when it came to Zenless Zone Zero, and I began to actually have expectations for this game over time. Up until this point, whether it be in terms of story or gameplay, I always enjoyed every agent that came out, except for Qingyi. Not because I dislike her, but because the game said I can't have her. However, with the conclusion of the Defense Force faction, all I can say is that I am properly whelmed. It's above average in terms of gameplay and pretty damn subpar in the story department, but who cares about that because we're getting two more agents with hot pants and no semblance of this game's aesthetic. I'm not pessimistic enough to say this game is going downhill or falling off, but this has been a period of disappointment for me specifically, and since this game has given me a crippling gambling addiction, I don't see myself ever quitting, at least until I get Soldier 11's Mindscape to max. In a way, I have no one but myself to blame. After all, it's my fault for falling in love with a character who has zero jiggle physics. I pretty much sealed my fate with that decision. It also falls on me to remember that I'm technically not the target demographic for this game. This game's main player base is Chinese, and I imagine those are the people Hoyo are pandering to the most, so I can only assume Soldier 11 doesn't have a huge audience in the East, and now I think I finally understand what old Donnie G is talking about. Maybe the military aesthetic is too much of a sore subject for them. I don't know why Anby didn't just recite the Tiananmen Square line to restore Harane's memory back to factory settings. If there is one saving grace to this whole faction, it's that I now have agents who aren't lighter and foo-foo that pair well with Soldier 11, and also aren't meta hogs like Astra. While I generally dislike Aftershock as a concept, Orphe is my new best friend to put with Harine, and unlike her own damn sister, isn't useless when put together.
You're killing me. You are breaking my heart.
I was ready to abandon all hope for this faction and drag my ass back to Victoria Housekeeping after the disappointment that was Echoes of Silver. Not in a gameplay sense, because while Silver Anby isn't good, she is fun and that's good enough for me. The story of Echoes of Silver though is by far the worst thing this game has ever put out, and the Seed Agent story has made me hate it even more. I get the whole point of hiding the truth from 11 was Anby being a coward and unable to face Harine again, and that's a fine flaw to have, but it also falls on everyone around her to make her get her act together and fix her relationship with her sister. Especially after the Seed Agent story. At the end of it, when Seed comes to terms with Seed Senior's death, Trigger tells the Proxy they don't want to keep Seed under any more false protection, but then if you do the event that came out at the same time, Opal Squad meets up with Anby and intentionally keeps Soldier 11 in the dark about meeting up with her sister. Yeah, it was Anby's wish, but what happened to that false protection bit? Whether it's for Harine's or Anby's sake, you're still a bad person for doing it. If Soldier 11 ever found out that her whole team, who's pretty much her new family, and the Proxy, who she trusts more than anyone in the world, have not only been meeting up with her sister behind her back, but also intentionally sending her away so they can do it, the crash out would be insane and honestly justified. If Hoyo never planned to keep 11 and Anby together, then I can't possibly fathom why they even did Echoes of Silver to begin with. There could be some grand plan involving the characters I don't know about yet, but it most likely won't be till after the Genshin characters and the Jilbei Idol girls. It's also even worse that they decided to include Obel Squad in on the lie. There is no reason for them to be meeting up with Anby behind her back and lying to her about it. Obel Squad individually are good people, but they are awful team members, and Soldier 11 deserves a better squad than them. The poor girl even admits to missing Anby at the end of Seed's Agent story, and everyone heard that and decided that they needed to keep lying to her for no reason other than to shelter Anby and her cowardice. It's one thing when the Proxy does it because they work with both parties in a professional manner, but Harine's own surrogate family lying to her is just plain terrible. There's cope among the Harine enjoyers that Soldier 11 will get another S-rank variant and a conclusion to hers and Anby's story, but I'm not buying into it. I believe Obel Squad's story ends here, and that includes Soldier 11, unfortunately. That is just the price I have to pay for enjoying a character no one else does. This sort of thing has happened to me far more than I would have liked, so I'm already numb to the pain. Completely unrelated, but I kinda like 11's VA. It doesn't hit the same as the old one, but this new VA has grown on me as time has gone on. She does manage to nail the cold and logical tone that makes Soldier 11, while also being able to convey 11's vulnerabilities.
Meeting you was the worst luck of my life.
As much as I hate to admit it, everything I've talked about up until now has been the worst of the Defense Force. Everything from here onward is either decent or actually pretty good. Seed is an agent that makes me very conflicted. On the one hand, she looks nothing like Obel Squad, whose main color palette is black and orange. Her outfit is not militaristic in the slightest, and her English VA amounts to ear rape. On the other hand, though, her gameplay is really fun, she pairs well with Soldier 11, and her agent story is actually really damn good. We finally got an Obel Squad member that works really well with Hareen, which is all I've ever wanted. Sure, the whole shock and fire combo is still kinda but Seed's buffs really help her out, and she's not an aftershock, so she's already better than Trigger in my eyes. To be honest, I thought the whole agent was gonna be the mech, and Seed was gonna be like Penny Parker in Marvel Rifles, where, yeah, technically she exists, but you're never actually gonna see her. The tragic part is, I don't even have her fully kitted out yet, and she already feels stronger than Silver Anby, which makes me sad, because I really want to use the cute white-haired lady, but now I'm stuck listening to a goblin with phlegm. I guess you could use both, and they make for a pretty good shock combo, and Seed does buff Anby, but I just wish Silver Anby was better. Now I want to talk about her agent story, because it's really damn cool. Seed is an interesting specimen. For lack of a better word, I think Seed is kinda very autistic. She has a few odd tendencies like eating flowers and feeding them motor oil. She lacks understanding of basic concepts like death, but she's also a savant when it comes to technology, so I think it's not unfair to call her autistic. After all, I have autism, so I can legally say retard. It's all okay here. The story is about Seed Sr., who is apparently dead, and Seed has been prancing around in his lifeless corpse. She doesn't know Seed Sr. is dead, though, and thinks he's just a little eepy, and the only reason she thinks that is because that's what the rest of Obel Squad has been telling her. Obel Squad gets help from Faithen to keep up the lie, while at the same time there's Veronica, who decides to be the bad guy and forces Seed to understand the truth. Seed has some weird phase shift powers, but that's never elaborated on.
You're an asshole.
Soldier 11 gets more dialogue here than in the main story, and Seed finally comes to terms with Seed Sr.'s death. There's a lot more nuance in between, but I don't want to be here all day. It's a very interesting thing for a soldier to not understand how death works, and probably a very bad idea. She could just kill anyone and not understand what she did wrong. She also has access to a mech with more missiles than body. The story touches on how Seed is a monster because she can't understand other people's pain, and yeah, she's not wrong. She's a grown-ass woman, and nobody bothered to tell her that people die when they are killed. I get she may be a little on the spectrum, but it's still someone's responsibility to teach the soldier how life and death works. It's just weird how nobody bothered to inform Seed on how these things work, and not only did they not tell her, but actively lied to her about it so she doesn't get sad when she finds out her dad is dead. Everyone in Obel Squad just can't help but lie to one another. First Hareen and now Seed. I don't understand how anyone in this team trusts one another. Yeah, Soldier 11 was messaging Seed from Senior's phone, but at least her reasoning was more altruistic and also stemmed from no one in Obel Squad telling her what was going on. She wanted to keep giving Seed hope because she knows what it's like to not be able to see someone anymore, and I wonder whose fault that is. They also took her along on the final mission without telling her why they were even going there, and they must just be doing it on purpose. I think they just like lying to Hareen. And I get the reason they didn't tell Seed was because it was Senior's final wish before he died, but if you ask me, that still doesn't justify it. Just because it was a dead man's wish doesn't mean you have to follow through with it. I get it was so she didn't get sad and use her crazy powers, but once again, it's someone's responsibility to make sure she gets that shit under wraps. I know I've been complaining, but it's still an amazing emotional story because while everyone around Seed is an idiot, Seed herself hasn't done anything wrong and she's really just a victim of her surroundings. But I have to preface this beforehand. If you plan on playing this agent story, please, for the absolute love of God, play this in Chinese, Japanese, or any language that isn't English, or you'll be subjected to the worst voice acting in this entire game. It's no secret that I don't particularly like Monica Rial. Even when she's not doing her dipshit lolly voice, her voice acting talent is still mid at best, and when she is, she's literal bottom of the barrel. Games like this and Persona 3 Reload taught me we can have younger and higher pitched characters in English who don't sound like a 12-year-old with a stoma, but I guess nobody bothered to tell Monica Rial, so she's just stuck 10 years in the past when people accepted this as good voice acting. It's even worse when she does her fake crying, because it makes Fufu's hysterical crying in her trust events seem more real.
Promise me we won't draw our swords on each other, okay?
Okay, I'll stop talking about Monica Rial. I just had to give a warning to anyone who values their ears. I'll end this Seed segment by saying, I don't have a foot fetish, but I do get it.
I'm 6'3".
Mommy,
And
I'm so sorry.
Now I've made my opinion on Aftershock clear as day, so you can already assume how I feel about these two in terms of gameplay. I can understand Trigger's utility as a passive stun, but what was the point of making Orphe an attack Aftershock? First we had off-field support, then off-field stun, and now you want us to do off-field damage? That was like the one thing we still had control over, and you're taking that away from us too? Well, at least we still have their stories to talk about, I guess. One thing I've noticed about agent stories is that whenever there's a villain introduced in these stories, they almost always get killed off in order to tie up any loose ends, so we don't have to call back to any of these events in the main story. I think that's kind of poopy because while I hate having homework in my media, at least these are all in the same game, so it's kind of a non-issue here. Not a complaint, just something I've noticed. Okay, I am complaining about it in Twiggy's case, but all the other examples are fine. Trigger's agent story is very middle of the road. It's not bad, but there are far better agent stories. All it really boils down to is Trigger looking for her lost team members before Obel Squad, and what did you know? They're all dead. I do like how, unlike other agent stories, this one is a flashback to when Faith and first met Trigger, and we get to see their first encounters. Usually with every other agent story, the proxy and the agent are already familiar with one another. Trigger is a very inoffensive character. She isn't terribly written like Hareen, but I don't find her story to be as tragic as Seed's. She's got a top 5 ass in the game though. That's really all anybody wanted from her. Orphe, I feel, has a bit of wasted potential. Much like Soldier 11, Orphe was a clone created for military purposes, and is mostly just meant to carry around Magus, who she is a clone of. Orphe mentions her insecurities about this fact once, but then it never comes up again, and I find that a bit disappointing. Maybe it does in her trust events, but I haven't reached all of them yet, so I don't know. It is especially annoying how her and Soldier 11 never talk about their similar circumstances. Both were born into military service whether they wanted to or not, and not once do they ever bring it up to each other. Hell, I doubt the two even know about their respective pasts because this team is so hell-bent on keeping things from one another. Magus is also kind of fucking annoying. Why is she so mean all the time? It hurts my feelings. Also, I thought the gun's sight was her eye, but then I noticed the stupid triangles on her side that were her actual eyes, and I kinda wish I remained ignorant. What I don't get is what was so special about Magus that the military felt the need to essentially dreadnought her ass and keep her alive forever. It's not like she's a particularly good captain because she can't even treat Seed like an adult and exclude Soldier 11 from literally everything. I like the concept of a talking gun tail, just wish they weren't captain of Obel Squad because they really don't fit the role other than being a hard ass. I still like Orphe and her innocent cat-like curiosity, and after listening to the hell that was Seed's English VA, listening to Dawn M. Bennett was a breath of fresh air. In terms of gameplay, if you even care, she's alright. Once again, Aftershock is not my cup of tea, but what I want to know is why is she labeled an attack? She does do decent damage. Come on, you're using her for that buff to help the other attack agent you likely have in your team. She does have a cool parry-like function, which always gets bonus points for me. Even though she is an Aftershock, I wish agents like her and Trigger had a bit more going on, at least in their basic attacks, because Aftershocks like them only have a 3-hit combo that doesn't do a whole lot and is detrimental to use if anything, at least time-wise. There is one thing I find really annoying about her in gameplay. Like with most Aftershocks, you gotta occasionally swap to them to keep their Aftershock ability active, but with Orphe, they'll just occasionally build it up on their own while also eating up energy? God damn, I had few moments to use her already and you're taking that away too? At least give me my brief moments of building up her bar. Anyway, I'm bored now, so I'm gonna go do something else. Obel Squad isn't my least favorite faction in the game, but it was one of the most disappointing. At the very least, each member in Obel Squad functions decently with one another. You can't say the same thing with Mockingbird though, huh? Orphe and her W engine took me 0 effort to unlock, and since I have no interest in the Genshin crossover characters, I can at least save up my money for a time so I don't go into crippling debt over 3D anime girls. But hey, at least they're not 2D.